So welcome everybody. My name is Andreas Haberl. I'm working from the Succow Foundation, who is partner in the Greifswald Mire Centre. And my personal relation to peatlands, well, I grew up close to a very nice and beautiful peatland in the south of Germany, in Bavaria. Some say it's the most beautiful peatland we have left. You heard from Franziska that we have spoiled 90% of our peatlands already, and only 10% maybe are in a good condition, and only a few percent are really pristine and close to pristine conditions. So today I want to give a talk about paludiculture, peatland rewetting for the climate and wet production. And you see here a nice example from Lithuania. So I have now a second OIKI project running in the Baltic states, together with partners from Estonia, Nature Fund Estonia, with partners from Latvia, like in Peatland Research Center, Latvia, and from Lithuania, Foundation for Peatlands Conservation and Restoration. We have also a colleague here present in the room. You also see it's not about pristine peatland we want to use. We want to focus on drained and used peatlands, and we wet them and then find a solution to use them. I will later give you more information about that side. So the challenge in agricultural peatland use is to come from drained peatlands that cause enormous environmental damage and costs and a drainage-based management. We want to come to peatlands with paludiculture. So we need to have water available. We won't need to re-wet and identify new wet management options to preserve ecological functions, services, and the production of renewable biomasses. So this is another picture, although you have heard the figures by Franziska. So 5% of all the emissions in Europe, greenhouse gas emissions, stem from peatland drainage. And in the Baltics, it's even more because they have more peatlands and have more area drained. So 70% of the area in the Baltics are drained and degraded for agriculture, for forestry, and peat extraction. And that makes Baltic among the top emitters from Europe from drained peatland soils. So this is a close-up to the figure Franziska showed already, and you can see that if you have more peatlands under agriculture drains, you have more emissions. So in the Baltic countries, so you have between 5 and 6% of agriculture productive soils is drained peatland, and the emissions rank from 53 to 71% of agricultural emissions. So it is a severe and critical fact, and we need to deal it. So peatland rewetting, we know, reduces climate warming, and we must act now, because if we come like used to, it will just increase CO2 emissions and increase the climate warming. If we even drain more peatlands, then we will even have more climate warming effect. If we rewet on half now, because we say, yeah, we don't have enough funds, it's scattered and so on, we still have an increasing climate warming. Only if we rewet all now, then we will have a climate cooling after 100 years, because we will not, peat sequestration and sequestration peatland takes time, very slow, but we can immediately stop the emissions. So the peat that is there and conserves carbon, that can be saved with rewetting. If we rewet later, then we just will postpone climate cooling. Because that is a complex issue, we made a nice information film about that. You can find it online. And because people say, what is about methane? When you rewet are high methane emissions, I heard. Yes, might be high emissions, but this information film gives you the idea why methane emissions should not stand against rewetting and for climate change mitigation. Now, what is paludiculture? So paludiculture is the wet utilization of peatlands and wet production of biomass. And you can either have wet meadows, where you have wet sites that have already spontaneously grown wet meadows, and you can harvest and decay from that, or you can have rangeland with adapted species like with the water buffalo, or you can directly install crop cultures. But then you have to use adapted peatland species like reed, like cattail, like black alder, as you see here, or peat mosses. So paludiculture crops, what is possible? As I said, reed would be a possible crop species, peat moss, Peat mass can be used for horticultural substrates as an alternative for peat. Black alder, if you cultivate it wet, and this is also some limits we find when we work together with forestry. They say, oh, we need to drain because then we can manage it more easily. But we have to find solutions to have a wet production realized. Cattail is an option. Cranberries for bog systems can be used, or as I said before, the water buffalo. The most important thing is we need to produce under wet conditions. So cultivation of biomass on wet and rewetted peatlands with plant species that contribute to the conservation of peat deposits and ideally to the formation of new peat. So the water table must be close to surface during the vegetation period and the harvest. And this is challenging. But a new idea. So we also have an anniversary this year. We have the 25th anniversary of the term Paludiculture. It was developed in Greifswald. And also the things we have research on and we identify as Paludiculture, a part of them is traditional use. You have a lot of reed harvest in Hungary for roof thatch. Yeah, you export to other European countries your reed for roof thatch to build roofs for that. So there's a lot of ideas outside, and it can be applied also on rewetted peatlands. But we still have to find some balance, like this girl on a pilot site in northwest Germany for peat moss farming. She has rubber boots on to not get wet feet. She has snowshoes on not to harm the soft and sensible soil and vegetation layer. So we need to take care and balance for the preservation of organic soil. We have to balance the minimization of emissions, economic viability and business schemes, and of course, social and human well-being. We have to include all stakeholders and find a good solution. And the upscaling needs business solutions and market development because we have nice biomass, we have nice product ideas, but at the moment there are no ready-made business schemes, no value creation chains where business people say, ah, this is something I would like to invest. We need new management approaches. Not the site is adapted to the utilization, but the site management to the wet and soft conditions in peatlands. And on the other hand, we need to identify new products and markets and develop them. Development of climate neutral product chains considering the full life cycle and the involvement of business partners is needed. And here you see some exhibition examples. We also handed out in the Baltics. We have this exhibition touring to inform people and give ideas what could be possible and to inspire people also to find new ways. And we compiled fact sheets about these products. They exist partly you can purchase them, partly they are on pilot level, but all the information we have collected is online on the web page of the project, and you can find them under the publications. So as I told you, so we had a lot of exhibition touring and information touring through the Baltic countries. Our partners were very active, speaking with policymakers and decision makers, speaking on agricultural fairs with farmers and entrepreneurs. And so to get the idea in the country, and we have no ready-made solution, and we want to stimulate their own creativity in each country where we cooperate together, because the solutions must be developed in the country and adapted to the country needs. We made a lot of public awareness raising and information. This is another film that gives all the backgrounds about peatlands, climate, and paludiculture, so that people get an idea. Peatlands is not only this nice and pristine thing. Peatlands can also be agriculture, for cattle farming, for maize growing, and you have certain environmental damage costs you then have to share on society's shoulders. And paludiculture as an option to rewet peatlands and still have a productive site. And we have pilot sites in Germany, and we've made a study tour to North Germany, where we showed all the pilot projects and people who deal with them and try to develop new products based on fibers, based on construction materials, or horticultural substrates, as this pilot size in Northwest Germany for sorghum farming. So to get into communication and show the examples and to inspire implementation elsewhere. Although we identified pioneers in the Baltic countries who do already good things with peatland rewetting and paludiculture approaches, and try to bring them together and to improve the networking there. And finally, for capacity buildings, we now developed in the current project also training materials, so fill materials and applied paludiculture, fact sheets from different paludiculture approaches, and we trained already some farmers and trainers that can multiply the idea. So we had last week, we had first workshops with Baltic farmers, and we had visited their sites and informed people so that the message can be transported. So an overview of the sites we identified so far in the Baltic countries that are potentially suitable for implementation. At the moment, they're at different readiness levels. Some had been pre-planned already. As I told you in the first slide, so there's one site that had been implemented. I will come back to that in the next slides. And we have made contracts with farmers who have already some experience in peatland management to get information about what are the challenges for them, what soil data they have, additional operation costs, what are the limits for them to manage their sites. And we have examples from peatland restoration or nature conservation where management for nature conservation is already done. So because this is also valuable experience, even if you focus then on protection of certain target species. So this is the site from Lithuania, which our partner Foundation for Peatland Conservation and Restoration had implemented. It was pre-planned in the first OIKI project and is now implemented with help of private funds, also from a investor who said, okay, with my money. And I heard in the Baltic countries, there's a good option to invest into such things. I want to do that. And then we brought people together, and it is a nice showcase study of the restoration of 7 hectares of a fen for wet reed canary grass cultivation. And as you can see, it's an agricultural landscape. So it's fields around. It had been arable and land before. And measures had been implemented in 2021. In 2022, you can see already here the dam and the blocking of the water and the growth of reed canary grass. And then in 2023, already a quite well-established reed canary grass stand can be found there. We had an excursion with students to Lithuania, and we showed them, and also we invited people from the ministry, so from Ministry of Agriculture and then a chief hydrologist engineer. They were very interested how that works, because they say, oh, we have no experience, how we should, what are the necessary steps we need to think about, yeah, the necessary permissions and approvals we need to hand out. So this is a good case for us to learn, and also which hydrology engineering capacities we need to build up to implement that in future on larger scale. So this is it's always good to have these pilots available to show it also to decision makers and policy makers that they can adapt their work to the needed challenges. This is a farmer from Latvia. He manages 50 hectares in wet meadows in a river valley close to the Estonian border. And there is also reed canary grass growing, but due to its management, the reed canary grass gets less. That's part of the management target. They want to have a species-rich wet meadow. And he says, I have also peatlands under my conventional agricultural use. They're drained now, but I consider to re-wet them because I'm interested in reed canary grass, because he has a pelleting facility and he produces bedding and fuel pellets and sells them. And he says, that would be nice because reed canary grass has good properties. So he's already considering that, and we try to involve him also in future in paludiculture projects. And he's a central or key stakeholder because he's organized in a farmer association. So he is a multiplicator for this. In this association, he spreads these ideas and his knowledge, and people can learn from him. This is a cranberry field. I said cranberries could be a good paludiculture crop. It is the right crop, but if it's cultivated like that, it's too dry. Here you can see it's in the vicinity of a nature conservation area, of a still pristine bog. But here you can see also peat excavation going on. And the berry farmers, they negotiated with the peat extraction people that they can have some of the sites that are not exploitable anymore and are left open to have them as a cranberry field. But they're drained still deeply and emit still a lot of CO2. Or they have selected the wrong species. So these are tall shrub blueberries that anyway need drier conditions. This is a nice example from Estonia. It's not paludiculture yet because it's mineral soil. So from paludiculture, we always need a significant layer of peat left or an organic rich soil. This is a river floodplain close to the Baltic Sea in the west of Estonia. And here the management is to keep it open. So shrub approach there. And therefore the hay is harvested and brought to a biomass heating plant that's used to provide heat for a small town and 400 households there. So it's already a business case that works more or less good. And if you implement that on a drained peatlands, rewet the peatlands and use the biomass for such issues, it can be really a good option. In Germany, we have now several long-term projects that started and are funded by the Federal Ministry for the Environment. And these pilot projects deal with different options for paludiculture. So we have wet grasslands, we have cattails, peat mosses, and so on and so on. And we have model and demonstration projects that are funded by the Federal Ministry for Agriculture. Also long-term funding, so for 10 years, to fill the gaps in knowledge, that we really get the idea what is needed to really implement paludiculture on large scale and make good business cases from that and to really give farmers and land users an option to earn money. This is the slide you saw also in Franziska's presentation. So this is a cattail cultivation on fen pilot on 10 hectares of former grassland for the production of cattail. And you can see also a harvest trial there already implemented. And before it had been a rangeland for suckler cow farming, and they made winter fodder on that sites. Then the site had been dammed. So there was the construction of dams to have a good water retention during the summer. It was an adjustable outflow and the creation of a reservoir. So this yielded good data, what is needed to get these paludicultures implemented. So we have already quite an overview. The costs are quite high per hectare at the moment because it's pilot stage, it's a small site. A lot of research issues had been involved, but we immediately see the large share, the 52% in brown, they are for the installation of the site. So the dam building and the preparation of the site for the planting. Green is also an research project for cattail. You don't need to plant. If you have a seed bank at the site that is still active, then the regrowth from the seed bank is much better than your seeding. Or you can seed with seed material before you rewet the soil. And you see also the operation costs for the management costs have been assessed from 2020 to 2022. And the conclusion is you have a permanent culture and you have one-off establishment costs that are very high. But the longer you run then the permanent culture, the better the economic figures get. And the revenues, they depend on the value creation chains and on market funding, but also on non-market funding. So from the cap, then need to be subsidy funds. And payments for ecosystem services can also be or need to be addressed to make it really viable in the future. But you have a lot of options with cattail. So you have insulation and construction materials you can build. You have the seed wool that can be used either as a stabilizer for loam plaster or for padding materials. Or you can use also cattail for horticultural substrates. This is an innovative thing that can be done with cattail. So there's the idea to build really construct elements like building containers for construction sites or light-weighted construction materials where you can top up in dense cities or additional floors on old buildings. And a nice example of these padding materials that can be made from the fruit stand of the cattail. This is a company in UK, and they got test materials from the site, and they made padding materials for jackets, and one jacket went also to King Charles. So they had a nice promotion slogan: "A jacket fit for a king." And there are also other companies in Europe. So we found in Finland there's Fluff Stuff, also a company that uses already cattail fruit bodies for textiles and stuffing materials. So all peatlands must be wet, and I hope you get a little bit inspiration about what is possible under paludiculture. And thanks for your attention.